Hey there, I'm Eternal, and I'm an object show fan that has barely watched any object shows. We have to fix that. Let's play Object Catchup. Hello and welcome into Object Catch-Up, the series where we discuss object show episodes right after watching them. Whether they're new or old, famous or unknown, it doesn't matter. We will get to it all. Now, today we're going to be doing requests, alright? Because throughout the past few weeks, we have had a flurry of requests that I've tried to get to on certain occasions. However, certain longer ones I haven't been able to get to. So for this episode, we're just gonna be getting to these requests that we couldn't quite get to usually. All right, and we're gonna be starting with the longer ones. I'm not exactly sure how much I can even take a look at here today, but we're gonna just try to do it. We're gonna do the request that we can, and then we'll see. I'm honestly, I don't really know exactly what the plan is. We're just gonna go until we can't go longer. All right, that is pretty much my plan. Do until I can't do, and then we'll be fine. All right. So the first series that we're gonna be taking a look at is from the oldest request that I guess ignored, which is Wow Another Show, or WAS for short. So this series was created by Liamation. It is a request from quite a long time ago that I just haven't been able to get to because of everything else that had to do. And we do in fact want to get to it. Let me check exactly who suggested this for a moment because I don't, I wanna give credit to the recommender as well. So the recommender was, I can't find it. Why am I not able to find it? It was Gadget Gamer. Okay, Gadget Gamer is recommended me to take a look at Wow Another Show by Liamation. Also off the top, but we won't be doing that right now. So let's take a look at Wow Another Show. It has 16 episodes. We're gonna be starting off here with episode 1, which is titled Eric Cartman is in this episode. Apparently the first 7 episodes are jokes and then it gets serious. So let's get through these joke episodes a bit quick, and then get into the real stuff. WAS S1E1. Go. Alright, that is episode 1 of WAS. So flip a clip, which is that the flip a clip logo? I guess that is the flip a clip logo. I don't really know what the flip a clip logo looks like, but now I know what the flip a clip logo looks like. We end up having ourselves a set of characters who whoa, immediate voice crack. Who's our character? We got Ball, who's ego. We've got Flint and Steel, who's like got bad ideas. 10, which we don't get to see. Pixelated Stickman. We've also got Ball Jr. that exists, Captain Underpants, and YouTube, Eric Cartman, and Gorilla. Those are the those are the characters in this show. And then we are having our challenge, which ends up being to name the teams. This is something that object shows, I've noticed that they tend to do quite often. They realize, yo, I want to do a quick episode, but we need teams to be named as well. But if we name teams and then do a challenge, it'll take too long. So just make the challenge to name the teams. I mean, it's a fair enough way to get shit done fast. So I respect it. The teams end up being called Team Ball because Ball's in it, with Team South Park because South Park's in it, Team Monkey because I don't know, the gorilla was making noises, and Team Oh Mama because they're fire, and that's the thing. And Team Oh Mama also ends up losing because they are an outdated meme. To be honest, I don't even remember what the meme is, but yeah, I guess if that must mean it's pretty outdated. So that means that Captain Underpants, Flint the Seal, and a weird fire guy are up for elimination. I kind of like the way the expressions of the fire guy. So I'd eliminate Captain Underpants for trying to change the voting opinion. Okay, episode 2. That's not the darkness from Pibby. Alright, episode 2, we have had ourselves the elimination after our first team, the wholesome emoji, which, well, that's a character, I didn't even see them the first time, but oh well, my bad. So our elimination is happening, and we have the Flint and Steel being the eliminated contestant. That makes sense for a couple of reasons. I mean, of course, they are the reason why they lost, and they also don't have an asset either. Like I was like, oh, Captain Underpants doesn't have an asset. Oh no, technically you don't have an asset either, right? Because like you're just a flint and steel. The Captain Underpants is a Captain Underpants, and the fire is just fiery, right? So it actually it's like a mirrored fiery. So it ends up being the same shit. Anyway, survived the wave of lava. A bunch of teams tried their best to dodge it. The fire, of course, doesn't even. It can just be in the lava because they're fire. But then the team South Park didn't do anything. They were just like, oh my god. So then they're up for elimination with the mini guy, pixel guy, YouTube guy, South Park guy, and then Face guy. I'm predicting Face guy gets eliminated because I don't think they've had a single scene in this episode so far ever since they first appeared into the episode. I'm predicting them to get eliminated here. One thing I'm gonna say, if Belle dies, does the string remain? I feel like that's a, I don't know. I feel like the string maybe should start falling, right? If it starts burning, or start like burning. Yeah, like catch on fire. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if I agree with the string remaining perfectly intact if Belle dies. Like I find it a little bit suspicious. But anyways, time to head into episode 3, rigged for Monkey. All right, that's an episode. So in Team South Park, we end up having Cartman eliminated with 6 out of the 8 votes by a large margin. You see, this time's fair because they don't have an asset compared to everybody else. You see, I'm not in the mindset. I'm not locked in yet into predicting these. I'm not gonna lie, but then we have our challenge, which is the parent to play gorilla tag and tag the crystal, right? Find the crystal and tag it. However, we didn't do the challenge. We don't get to see the challenge. We're just like, oh, I was too lazy to make it. Okay, bro. Then change the episode. You don't need. It's not a forced requirement. You can change. You can go back and refilm. But anyways, I mean, I don't really know what to say. The challenge, I mean, it was gonna be complicated to do, right? Because it's that type of challenge that requires an environment, right? Because Gorilla Tag, you gotta find something. You can't do it in a white void. So I understand why you don't want to do the challenge. It's a difficult challenge to make, but I mean, we just gotta be smarter next time. Ball emoji, bell, and 10. I'm saying 10. No, I'm saying the emoji gets out. Maybe I don't. I don't. Bro, it's been so hard to guess these. To be fair, there's so little information to go over them. Episode 4, getting Captain Underpants to go to space. Okay, that's episode 4. That's pretty interesting. So we have ourselves 2 votes overall, where emoji does end up getting eliminated. I mean, yeah, we did an episode without a challenge, so there's not even a reason to watch it. So why vote? So that makes sense, right? But we have ourselves a team merge. Ball and South Park survive. The other teams eventually get merged. So Gorilla goes into South Park, and team whatever the hell it was, the fire team, and they're going into the ball. So they end up dropping in, and now, oh mom, yeah, that was the team. So the challenge is get cheese and go down. How do you get cheese if the world's all white? Go to the moon because the moon is made out of cheese. So then Ball and Captain Underpants are debating how to get up there. Ball wants to climb a bell string to get there. I guess valid if it's an infinite string. And Captain Underpants just wants to, I can just fly there. So they race there. Meanwhile, the other team ends up having Gorilla Tag fly over. Everybody's having an epic debate until Nothing was just eating a cheeseburger. Ball drops into them, right? Because they just fell. And then the cheeseburger ends up flying over into Flip a clip, and then the cheeseburger has cheese in it, so they're safe. But hey, at least Nothing and Ball, I don't know, I don't know what that scene was. And then the other team is up for elimination. Team Ball is up for elimination because Nothing was on the other team. By the way, they're called Nothing, they're not called Face, so my bad, I guess, on that's an inaccurate description. Who's getting eliminated? I don't know, but I'm starting to really like the voting screens for this one episode. At least it's very nice. Do I say Captain Underpants gets eliminated? I am gonna say Captain Underpants gets eliminated because I don't know why they wouldn't still, or no, actually no, Fire gets out. Fire, yeah, it's definitely time for Fire to get out. They didn't do anything in this episode, and they, you know, the the novelty has run dry. Let's get ourselves into episode 5, which is titled The Beach Episode. They predicted Digital Circus. Let's go. Alright, what is this episode? And you know what? Even though apparently episodes 1 to 7 are where are the joke one, I can already feel that there's a little bit of a quality bump. I'm starting to notice that like the way that the characters are like we're getting more like expression work being done, which is nice. Apparently we have 290 votes because we forgot to make it so that you can't get let's say that you can't vote more than once in a Google form. It happens. Everybody makes that mistake at least once in their lifetimes. So we end up doing that, and eventually the spam voters end up getting freaking Captain Underpants out. Shout out to that. Shout out to the spam voters for doing at least picking a good person to get out. And that means that we have our next challenge: make a sandcastle. So Team Ball is managing to survive despite Ball's incredible ego-ness and just kind of being mean and team leading by kind of doing dumb stuff. They're like getting away with it because the other team is a failure of abysmal quantities to the point where it's like, what do you mean? Yes, build a house next to the shore where it's gonna break. Yeah, I mean, bro, I don't even. I mean, to be fair, the house was nearly exactly the same as the other one, so I don't know if that sandcastle was gonna win, but like, it's not great. But yeah, somehow it is, and I'm liking the constant bickering that Bell and Ball are doing. Like, I'm enjoying it. I'm like, haha. That sounds way more sarcasm than it sounds, but like it got some giggles, which is nice. I've been an enjoyer. So then the other team is up for elimination because, of course, they built a house on the shoreline. Who gets out here? I mean, it's who suggested it? I don't remember who suggested it. I think it was the mini ball junior ended up going, yo, we should build by the shoreline. So technically it's 100% their fault and they should get eliminated. Will they get eliminated? No, I think Gorilla gets out, but let's go. I don't. Yeah. Yes. Okay. All right. Episode 6 of WAS is Fire Does a Thing. Whoa, never seen that before. Let's go. Okay, that is episode 6. So we're getting a little bit more characterization here for the characters. By the way, one thing I haven't pointed out, I do think it is quite cool how the screen is slowly filling up with blocks as every episode passes, right? And we get the votes for each episode. Although I am gonna say it's probably gonna overfill at some point, right? But oh well. We end up having our elimination be the pixelated stick man. I mean, I guess they didn't do anything. Yeah, I don't know. I've been bad at predicting these today. Today I do not have the sauce, unfortunately, for predicting them. But we end up having our rejoin challenge, which ends up being a game of rock paper scissors. Pick somebody to play rock paper scissors. And then if they win, you get a rejoin contestant on your team. Which, I mean, as far as the challenge is concerned, it's not very good because obviously, right? Like it's rock paper scissors is roughly an RNG game, so it's not epic. They're debating who to do it, and then Fire, which which we saw, like, I think, make noises for the first time. They're literally just Woody, but they're like reverse. No, they're not reverse Woody. They're just Woody. They're like Woody if it was a fire, right? Which is fine. Boy is like, yo, I'm taking the blame on me. I don't want to get out. So yeah, that makes sense. Uh, then they end up doing it against Nothing, which, by the way, has like the freaking socks on. I guess to like heal from the injury. But Fire manages to win. They look all swag. They get a token, which we still don't know what it means. We just know that it's bad. And they will get somebody voted out by the eliminated contestant. Next time, making a contestant vote. And then we have ourselves the rejoin vote. Who's gonna rejoin? Probably Flint and Steel, I think, in this case. As I'm just passing, I am realizing that it's not always the first character that goes up a region, especially in these smaller shows. However, I think in this case, Flint and Steel would make the most sense, unless you want to make Pixelated Stickman region, which I think would make sense, but they didn't do anything, just literally. So, but I do think the Pixelated Stickman does look pretty cool when it comes to like like in the voting screen at the end in the way that they point down. So that they're like cute. But my prediction is going to be that the Flint and Steel rejoins. It makes the most sense by quite a bit. Episode 7, the last joke episode, I think. Well, let's close off our jokes. New year, old me. All right, interesting episode here. It seems like we're transitioning more towards a show that actually matters as we start heading into the initial scene, which is presumably animated back over in the past. I really like the way that Ball's like, oh, we gotta merge, and then they do like the meme, of course, of the whiteboard, and everything. But like, we end up having ourselves a nuclear fallout apparently, and 9 months later, which has it been 9 months? When did I hold on? Let me actually check. How long has it passed since episode 6 and 7? Don't do the meme. November 15th, 2023, September 8th, 2024. Okay, so yeah, it has been a while. But yeah, as you can see, Flipper Club logo has been renewed. They don't have like the cheeseburger on their head. We have some new designs. Fire is redrawn. We've introduced eyelashes for these contestants, for the female contestants, because you gotta have those. I don't mind. I think it's good. I actually enjoy this. Ball has had a mild rework. 10 is now a gradient, which before they weren't, I guess. Then we have Gorilla, which is more for real, I guess. YouTube and the freaking fella Friends of Stairs also had a complete rework. The Pixel, the Stickman now has eyelashes. The emoji, no, they're still the same. But the still rejoined eventually with 8 votes, which makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it was either them or the Pixelated Stickman, and the Pixelated Stickman got 4 votes, which is half of what we needed. So then, yeah, challenge is to fix the glasses, which Flipper Club has, which they put glue on it, and they don't really they don't actually fix it, they just put glue on it, but apparently that fixes it. That would make it worse, but I guess that's the joke. I mean, okay, I guess. And then that means that the other team, because Ten and Ball have just been bickering the entire time. Um, I've been pretty cooked. Hey, I'm surprised. I mean, Bell was bickering with Ball nearly the entire time, and Ball still managed to just overpower it. But I guess with Ten, who's also a character with limbs, then it becomes a little bit more difficult to like overpower them. So yeah, we can't vote Flint and Steel because they just rejoined. That's fine. You can have a 1 episode grace period. And then the fire. Wait, does the fire have limbs? I thought you had limbs. Where did your limbs go? Wait a minute. Do you not have limbs anymore? Wait. No, you. No, wait. You don't have limbs anymore. Wait, what? You don't have legs? What happened to your legs, bro? What? Who decapitated you? What the hell? Nah, you definitely had legs. Wait, what? Somebody, bro, they chopped off bro's legs. They chopped off bro's legs. What do you mean? This is so sad. What? Wait, did you have them before? No. Oh wait, no, you didn't already. Oh no, you just didn't matter. Oh no. Oh, okay. No, never mind. Okay, whatever. I'm done. I'm not paying attention to the joke show enough. Disgrace. Super sad. My bad. Okay, no, they already didn't have legs. It just didn't really matter before. How did they not burn the sand when they were on it? Whatever. Time for the first Rio episode. I mean, look, these episodes they are real, but like it's time for the first serious episode. Apparently, episode 8, Child Abandonment, the musical, 60 minutes. Okay, so that is episode 8 of Was Child Abandonment, the musical. So we have a definitive change of I guess, thematics. We start off here with a warning, which is interesting. We have apparently it's rated 13 plus because it features child abandonment as a theme and also very loud screaming, which is that even true? I don't remember even hearing that. But we have ourselves a very much so ball focused episode, right? Just like entirely, this episode is about ball and there's ball in it and it's ball. Okay, like it's a lot of ball, and we get to figure out all of the ball lore. Like, the thing about it is that so far this show does feel incredibly biased towards certain characters, right? Because like a character like Ball in this episode, they literally hog all the screen time, and the other episodes they also hog all the screen time, right? Like, it feels like we have a massive set of favorites right now that we're gonna kind of need to eventually, spread out the love to the cast. We are still doing an object show after all, even though we have, of course, turned this into a musical. So what I think of this musical, so this 16-minute video features about 6 musical pieces within it. Of which 5 of them are from are edited versions of the Backyardigans, which is a show that I know about, but I don't remember too well. But like, I think, did I ever watch? I don't think I ever. I don't think it was ever on TV back in the day. However, it was we feature versions of it, of course, edited to the respective theme, and then there's also, I think, one or not original composition, just taking a beat that is available online and rapping over it to make the flip a clip rap. So yeah, due to it not being original composition, I'm not gonna do the thing where I sing it. However, at the end of the day, I do think that it's pretty cool. It's pretty interesting. Like at the end of the day, okay, let me get something super clear. Is the singing good? The answer is no, not really. We are of course doing the whole thing of singing in characters' voices, but even then I feel like usually if you notice it, the singing voice itself takes itself to like a higher pitch than the character nearly every single time. We're just trying to do some higher notes, and it sounds okay. It's listenable. It's not like terrible, terrible, but it's not very good. You know, like you're like unfortunately we're not winning Grammys here, but like do I care? At the same time, no, I don't really care actually, to be honest, because it's like it's cute, you know, like it's fine. It's this type of thing where it's like at the end of the day, I admire it in a way because I admire it for existing, like looking at it and just being bold, being direct, right, and just going more properly like yes, I'm going to sing this and this is what I want to do regardless of any like skills or capabilities, you know, like we're self-aware. I think the description says horrible singing, right? Which I'm again, it's not very good, I'm just gonna be honest here, but it's like the fact that we're putting ourselves out there and we're not caring and we're just having fun doing what we want to do, right? And it's like it's nice. It gives this you get a little bit of the feeling, and that's I think what pushes through the entire episode is that at the end of the day, as a story is kind of corny, as a singing is kind of meh. However, like it survives itself off of just kind of the raw vibes of it's like this at least is unique because this person wanted to make this thing regardless of anything else, and it looks cool and it sounds cool. All right. So okay, so what are we talking about? Ball ends up being apparently having some gossip and they want to hear about it. I think that, by the way, the animation quality itself, I actually am quite a fan of the animation here. I think that it looks pretty cool in the way that like we have like the way the characters express themselves and they just look, I think ends up being pretty nice. I think it's very fun, and especially in a show with background, especially when we get to see a background here from time to time in some of the songs. It's rather cool. It's rather fun. So we end up discovering, like, yeah, I don't know, they managed to be surprisingly expressive, and we do have some creative idea, like the tear turning into the background or whatever at the ending of Civilization. Like it's cool. Um, but anyways, we have ourselves an elimination which doesn't actually get to happen because Ball ends up having the gossip ends up being told by nothing to Ball is that apparently Ball Jr. is the child of Ball. Oh my god, this is crazy. But yeah, we end up discovering that not only did they have a son, they have a second son, and then they also have a father. I mean, you'd expect that, but like they have two kids. One of them is a blue ball that's already grown up, and one of them is Ball Junior that's already a kid. Which I mean, that implies quite a bit. I like, dude. You know, again, it's corny, but I like the script of like, oh, you guess exactly what I was gonna say. I was just a young boy, so I wasn't ready enough to have a kid, so I abandoned them. You know, the thing that I find the most interesting about this plotline is that like Ball needed to have a kid, abandon them, then wait a very long time because the age gap between like the blue kid, the sphere, whatever they're called, and Ball Junior is really really large, which means that this bro needs to have a kid, not be ready for it, abandon it, then wait multiple years, have another one, and still not be ready for it. This guy needs to stop. But yeah, that's not epic. And Ball Jr. Gets all sad. We have another song? We do have another song, Newsflash. Which this song's fine. One thing I am gonna say about this thing, I don't think it's exactly present in Newsflash. It's more present in the last couple ones. Even though the singing is definitely of dubious quality, I will point out that it actually sounds quite alright when turned into when harmonized when we're doing harmonizing, like with each other, like with themselves, the characters, they actually managed to make themselves sound quite solid. I actually think the harmonies in these songs are actually quite decent. So that's definitely the strongest part about it. But yeah, that's Newsflash. Then we have the other kid who like doesn't really care that they got abandoned. They just like accepted it at a certain point. So they go play ball, and then Ball Junior gets all sad. It's like wah, and they're crying to Flint and Steel, and then Tennis like, bro, look at this guy. How am I supposed to not do that? So then they go over and start freaking having a debate. Yeah, the Flipper Club rap, which why is Flipper Club doing a rap? I don't think we ever get to see that. We ever get to know why we're doing a rap. We just feel like doing a rap here. But okay, what is 10 doing? 10 goes to get the yeah, I'm gonna get that ball, the next musical piece, which is pretty fun. I like how the like how they have like the freaking blindfolds, but the eyes just go over the blindfolds anyway, so it literally doesn't even matter. But I mean, like, okay, cool stuff, bro. Then we have some fellas. What are we doing? Yeah, yeah. In this song is where I think the background showed themselves to be pretty alright. Like I like the way they're sitting there in the orange. Like I think if this show manages to discover a way to have like backgrounds, I think it could look pretty solid. You know, like it has potential with a background. This series. And then we find out that they were all skating, the two bros, and then Ball Jr. pops in and goes out, yo, we're gonna do a competition. And then we have this competition as we see all the skateboards. This is pretty cool as well. I enjoy this plot line. I think it's kind of fun, to be honest. And then Ball Jr. ends up winning after who made the best ball win. The next musical piece. There's a lot of musical pieces. Yeah, look, I mean, I guess a musical has a lot of like songs in it, but like usually a musical is also longer than 15 minutes. I feel like we might need to chill out in the future. The other episodes aren't con musicals, so I mean, I guess I'm gonna be interested to see if there's more songs in the next episodes. Like, is this a theme of the series, or was it just this episode was like, yo, let's YOLO album songs? We're gonna need to see. Ball Jr. ends up winning. 10 ends up putting Ball in jail. So then they did it. Ball has successfully been jailed. They're still not out of the show, by the way. Technically, they could still be in the show. Although, especially considering the Flipper Clip rap, which says, oh, Ball, you're a deadbeat, or whatever. I'm predicting that the rap was supposed to say that Ball got eliminated, maybe? That's the only thing that I could realistically imagine. Because, like, yeah, Ball might have to be gone. But yeah, we end up having ourselves the credits, the slowest credits of all time. I don't think I have ever seen credits go by slower. Right after the last musical piece. What was the last musical piece? It was a happy ending. Yes, a happy ending from the Backyardigans. The Backyardigans. Shout out to the Backyardigans for I guess existing, supplying this with the song, hard flute type beat. Um, and then we end up having our final post-credit scene of the Ball Jr. just going like, I just wanted to point and laugh at you, and then it's like, haha, that's cute. I like it. I find this episode fun. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not 100% sure if like how original of a plotline this is exactly, right? Because I mean, at the end of the day, we've inspired ourselves a lot from the Backyardigans in terms of the musical pieces. And I don't know if like the story is actually correlated to anything directly here, which I mean, it could be. It's one of those things. It's like when I see something taking such heavy inspiration from a different piece of media, you know, I start asking, yo, did we take inspiration from other pieces of media as well? And I mean, maybe I can't currently imagine it, but I'm also not a big media consumer. I'm gonna be honest. As far as a media consumer, I'm not one of the top ones, so I gotta like sort it out. I mean, like, look, you gotta remember, I started Catchup because like I was somehow an object show fan. I was into all the shows and read about it, but somehow like hadn't watched more than just half of BFDI and II. Like, how was I doing that? So like this series has already, you know, got me to a certain point. I wonder at what point I'm gonna need to start taking off the tagline at the beginning where where I've barely watched any of the show, because at this point I'm starting to watch them a lot. Am I getting sidetracked from the video? Yes, I'm getting very much so sidetracked from the video. I'm really sorry. But yeah, that is episode E8. So I checked the OST because I was curious. Presumably, what we're doing is that the official soundtrack only takes in stuff that we can technically use, right? Therefore, song 3, the flipper clip rap doesn't technically it does count, but the other ones don't as part of the musical. Although I don't know when Etuehoa and TV Tango played. Gonna be on. Don't know when those played, but I guess we're gonna need to see. I'm gonna keep an eye on this soundtrack. If there's ever an original song that has longer than 10 seconds, I might sing it for a session because it's fun to sing songs that the original songs from different shows and stuff. Also, I just like to point out that Ball is the fucking main character of the OST as well. This show is about Ball. Wow, another show. More like wow, another Ball. This is the ball season. It's ball season, bro. Okay. Yeah. Do you have anything else to say about it? I think okay. Usually, I try to talk about the length of the episode, just to, like, give each episode is fair enough. But I feel like I've talked for the length of the episode. It just had a 2 minute long outro. Let's keep it moving. This is the longest episode I think it was, just in general. Yeah, it's just the longest episode it was in general. So we only have shorter from here on out, because it's time for episode 9 of WAS, which is titled Digging Deep. All right, let's dig deep and find out if the episode's any good. Let's go. Okay, so that is episode 9 of WAS Digging Deep. So we have here some interesting situations here. So as you can see, this show is starting to pick itself up more in terms of like trying to daring a little bit to do a challenge, right? Like here we have the interesting challenge where we have locations and stuff happening, right? It is interesting. Team Ball eventually decides to change their name to the Ballers. And we end up having our elimination where Bell gets eliminated with 4 votes. Remember, this was the elimination from episode 7, not episode 8, because they voted people in episode 7, and episode 8 we're supposed to reveal it. Now you got the whole shebang with Ball and their kids and shit. So then that elimination gets postponed to this time, which means that, yeah, when Bell complains, like, oh, what? Did you guys not see the guy? I mean, yeah, we saw him now, but we didn't know this vital piece of information back then, and we just thought that Bell was boring. So Bell just decides, you kind of let me name me if you can't get me. So they end up going down to the center of the earth, and apparently if you hit the center of the earth, you explode. The earth explodes, which is not good news. So we try to fix, we try to stop them, and we have a couple of plans. So apparently YouTube logo smells really bad, so we try to send them down. YouTube logo only speaks on the right ear, and that is on purpose, I think, which is, I think for one character it's fine. Usually I'd complain, but I don't know why, it kind of does fit the vibe of the show in a sense. So I mean, sure, fine, why not? So then they get sent down there, but then they can't resist the concept, like they can't stay down there. They can't go dive all the way down. So then they stop themselves by hugging the walls and eventually mine over. And it's like, and then they get all sad because, oh, I don't matter. I'm useless to my team. Nobody needs me anyways, even though it was literally asked to do the thing for them. But I failed. I need to leave, right? So then they leave off. Over into a random cave, and they will live there forever. And then we have the debate that Fire apparently wants to burn the. No, they want Fire to burn the string, because if you burn the string, it can't go down forever. It'll break or whatever. Like it'll catch on Bell, and then it's fine. And then Flint and Steel goes like, "Yo, it's my son. You can't do. Wait, what? That's your son? Really? Really? What? This is new information. New information I didn't know about. Flint and Steel is the mother of Fire. Okay. The Fire now is way more of a speaker. Like they're more like end the BFB Woody now. Because they can actually speak and stuff and mildly defend themselves. So apparently they're doing that whole that thing, and they're complaining, oh, you don't let me, never let me do anything, even though I was too scared to do anything in episode 126, and that was the reason why I didn't do anything. Right? I literally looked petrified in all of those initial episodes. Remember, Fire looked literally petrified to be there, and it's like, oh, no, oh, no, it's your fault, Mom. Like, what? It gives me vibes of like when you write something in later and it's like, oh, you gotta explain it, but it kind of doesn't make sense. Like, if I close my eyes and I just go, okay, yeah, that's fair. However, if I really look into it, is like, was Flint and Steel actually Fire's mom in the previous episode? Probably, very much so. And that was not the idea. There's no way that was the idea since the beginning. The reason they were just making Fire this ultra scaredy cat character, right? But now we're like, oh, that's boring. So let's write a reason to why they don't do things. Apparently, their dad died. Who's the dad of a Flint and Steel? No, if a Flint and Steel's the mother, who's the dad? That's just another Flint and Steel. I mean, because I guess ball and ball make a ball. So I don't. Does Flint and Steel make a fire? But you only need one Flint and Steel to make a fire. As usual, the classic question of what are objects' parents? Look, I find it an interesting question. Okay, but eventually, as you'll notice, because of that debate and the YouTube logo not ever doing that, nobody actually even manages to get to do anything. Nobody tries the tactic of like trying to just snip it. You know, like if you just cut the string, Bell won't be able to use it to go lower. Nobody tried that tactic. For some reason, we have to burn it. I mean, I guess we don't have a pair of scissors on us. Like nobody has a pair of scissors. But I mean, I don't know. It feels like that type of item that would exist, right? It's like somebody's got to have a pair of scissors, right? But anyways, because of that, everybody fails. We hit the core to Earth, and then apparently the Earth is going to explode in 10 seconds. We have a genuinely really cool scene of the fire sort of taking over the world. It turns out that it was actually a dream, and nothing happens when you hit the core of the Earth. That means that both teams actually end up losing. Who will get out? Interesting question, man. That is an interesting question, because Ball does... he's, of course, the ultra bad one that everybody dislikes. In the show itself, right? Because like they went, the whole last episode. However, they do want to get out of the cage, and you can feel a little bit bad for them. I'm gonna say Flint and Steel gets out. Because yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna say Flint and Steel. I don't know who else it would be. I'm gonna say Flint and Steel for not letting their kid do things. Gotta be the reason, because I kind of currently imagine another reason. So yeah, we're gonna go with that. We have some fellas yet again. Apparently, we have a jetpack and jetpack fuel that we still need because the freaking sphere didn't get it in time to get the ball out of there. So they're inventing an epic plan. And before we can invent an epic plan, we're gonna need to watch the next episode. The next episode is episode 10, 1 and 0. Let's go. Alright, that is episode 10 of WAS 1 and 0. So we have ourselves the jetpack, which Sphere got, which happens to get immediately stolen by 10 because, yeah, I mean, I don't think Ball's exactly getting freed just yet. Not quite. They still have more to lose. And then we have ourselves the elimination with 32 votes. This show's making it to the big leagues. It's almost like when the show becomes more serious, people care about it more. And we are indeed doing that. And we end up having a couple of fellas safe and eliminated with 11 votes compared to Ball Jr.'s 10. We end up having Ball be eliminated. Surprisingly close. I'm shocked this many people voted for Ball Jr., to be honest. But yeah, I had predicted Flint and Steel. That was wrong. My bad. Oops. But yeah, before Ball leaves, they get super angry and manage to take a piece of the cage and slice it on 1 and 0, which ends up slice 10 in half, which ends up separating 1 and 0. But they're both okay. 0 can't talk, if you remember, so goodbye, Ball. You have officially been banished. Bell, presumably, I guess, has also been banished, because I don't know where they went. I mean, they hit the center there, probably, right? But they didn't, We don't get to see what the hell happened, so presumably they're out. But yeah, we have ourselves a challenge. We're flying up into the sky. YouTube logo's scared now because of that one time they fell down a gigantic hole. And then the island. The challenge is really simple. Drop down from the island and you are up for elimination. Except no, that's not the challenge because 1 and 0 complained. No, except 1 complained. The challenge simply is that the winner gets to pick somebody that is eliminated. That is the challenge. If you win, you get to pick who's eliminated, which is it's a lot of power. And we have the merge here. 10 remain as 1 character, despite the fact that they're now divided. But yeah, with various degrees, we end up doing that. The nothing ends up feeling quite bad now for YouTube logo, who ends up kicking off Ball Jr. to start. However, then 1 and Flint and Steel got all mad. Nothing tries to be YouTube logo really doesn't want to fall, but they end up not falling. Fiery ends up. When does Fiery fall? I'm trying to, I was like, yo, Fiery is going to try to push off 0. But when did Fiery fall? I literally can't see him. Like, wait, what happened? They look at 0, perfect, and then they're not there. Did 0 push them off? Is that what happened? Like 0 pushed off Fire, but we don't get to see it. And then we think that nothing did it. Then we are all mad, but then they eventually both fall. Actually, no, both except for nothing fall. Nothing lets go of YouTube logo. And then manages to kick off Flint and Steel. Then Ball Jr. ends up joining a cave that just so happens to be right next to the elimination area, where there's 20 people that have just been hanging out. And we're like, yo, I'll bring you over. Maybe if you guys can join the show. I mean, it's nearly ending, so yeah. Our final 2 end up being 0 and Nothing. I remember 0 has a cool little jetpack, and they absolutely demolish Nothing with it. So yeah, there wasn't too much to say. 0 absolutely solos. Zero's an interesting character. I kind of enjoy them. They have their eyes permanently closed. It's interesting. I like me some characters that are multiple characters. But yeah, we're gonna kind of need to see what type of personality Zero is as a character. Because currently, I mean, they did the challenge. They were pretty smart. They stood around, made themselves a target. However, had that superior idea, where anybody who challenged them lost because they had a superior weapon. So make yourself a target if you're confident that you're going to win, right? So that way you can take out your opponents yourself instead of having to wait, which is pretty smart. But they get to pick out somebody who's going to be eliminated, so they start drawing, which is pretty interesting because, I mean, Zero is exactly the type of character that we just don't have an opinion on. We just don't know who they dislike or like. Right? For a moment, I thought that it could have been a massive ultra shock where it would have been like, OMG, 1 gets eliminated, 0 doesn't like 1 or whatever. But no, that's not what we're doing. We instead eliminate Ball Jr. actually, which is fair enough. I mean, it closes off the saga completely, right? We did our musical saga, right? With Ball and Ball Jr. and the Ball family, but alright, let's officially stop chatting shit about Ball, and then we can go on and do other arcs now in the future. We've done this, it's done, the characters are gone, and then we can keep it moving. So, I don't mind. I think it's pretty solid. And then they end up dipping, and then we have ourselves a debut where we have 20 characters up for debut. Who do I like out of these fellas? None of them stood out to me massively. I'm gonna be honest. Dude, that's an interesting question. Do I want to say that one of them's getting out? The first one's getting in? No, I liked the design of Time Bomb. I thought that was really cool. I like the Time Bomb design. It's probably my favorite. Gasoline looks kind of cool. Steve might join because they did have the Hourglass and Steve had lines in the episode, which might make them interesting picks. And then Diamond was also kind of interesting. I like how the jokes that their design takes ages. But I'm gonna say, okay, I'm gonna predict that Hourglass gets in. Kind of random. They're one of the first ones in the video. They had lines in the show and everything. And they might do that. I'm gonna predict Hourglass. Although I personally would want Time Bomb to join because I think that they have the coolest design. Right, one of their eyes being like a bomb and everything. that's just objectively kind of sick, no? Like, that's just cool. Okay, so we're doing that because I think the first character, who's the first character that shows up in the debutante options? Um, it's 3. I mean, I don't. 3 is not gonna join, right? Just the Google image of the 3 on fire. Like there's no way. There's no way. I refuse for there to be a way. Um, I like how the credits now they remain really slow. However, now we've got some cute little drawings. It's like a movie credits, which is that's fun, right? So yeah, I enjoy that. And then the post credit scene is Zero just flying around. We need to understand this bro's motives. They cannot just be happy in life. You can't just be happy. There must be something more sinister going on. Let's keep it moving into episode 11 of Was Wow Another Show, which somebody said it in the debut, and there was a laugh track that played. That character might also join. I don't know who they were, to be honest. So yeah, let's go with That Sinking Feeling. Let's watch it. Alright, that is episode 11 of WAS. So here for episode 11 of WAS, we need to have a little bit of like a general chat, okay? Because there is like, we need like a freaking circle, alright, of like what is the relationships here? Like what is happening? What are we doing? What are we doing? Who likes who doesn't like the others? Okay. So like we're confused. So Flint and Steel is the mother of Fiery. Fiery doesn't really like their mother that much because they are way too overprotective, right? And they're kind of being rebel kid. Then there's apparently Nothing, the character, who might like Flint and Steel, I think, but Flint and Steel has not been caring enough because they're too busy being overprotective over the fire, right? So those are happening, right? In the meanwhile, there's 10. The people around 10 aren't really liking 10, except for Fiery, who doesn't mind 10, right? But the people around 10 don't even like it, and debatably Zero might not even like 1 a little bit. So that, because that guy's lashing out constantly over at YouTube logo, and YouTube logo is relatively friendly with somebody like Nothing, which is fine. So yeah, those two are friends. Nothing and YouTube logo are now friends again. But Flint and Steel is also mad at YouTube logo for having because they thought they kicked off. No, because yeah, they kicked off Ball Jr. that other time, right? And Flint and Steel might not really like Nothing because of the fact that they thought that Fire was the one who they knocked off, even though it wasn't, right? But Nothing likes Flint and Steel. Okay. And then there's the debutante. Which, by the way, the debutante is Macaron. By the way, with 18 votes, you end up having our debutante out of 122, which is quite a lot. But we end up having. But how is it that out of 122, 0 people voted for Gasly? That's actually insane. Gasly was cool as well. Whatever. We have Macaron join. Yeah, this was entirely not something I could have seen. I think. I mean. No, I don't know. Why 18 compared to 14 compared to 15? Time Bomb, which was the character that I would have personally voted for if I could have, would have most likely been like we got pretty close, got third with 14 votes compared to Macaron's 18. Not really sure why Macaron joined. I don't exactly have a reasoning. It was probably just fans. Every character has its own recommender, right? So therefore, recommenders sort of make their guy join, in like a sense. So I mean, yeah, that makes sense, right? So Macaron ends up doing joining, and they're all very happy until eventually we end up having ourselves a challenge. So the challenge is use a boat to get to an island and then grab a treasure chest. If you grab it, you are safe. So it's a kind of simplistic challenge. There's not much to it. Like you can do shenanigans on the boat. Try to intercept the other boats, do like pretty sabotage. But other than that, sort of, if you're focusing on your own game, it's a relatively simple challenge of get the boat to go forward and go to the island, right? So yeah, however, this time you're in duos. The duos are randomly selected, so we end up having the duos of 10 and YouTube logo, Macaron and Flint and Steel, and Fire and Nothing. Okay, these duos are all fine. To be honest, they're all okay. Flint and Steel and Macaron start chatting. Apparently, Fiery is capable of sucking in the fire and spitting it back out so that the boat doesn't go in the fire, which is pretty nice. One is constantly lashing out a YouTube logo for that one for the other time. And then Macaron ends up singing a song. Yeah, we have another song. The Macaron's Ballad, I think it's called over in the OST that also has officially released as of this episode. Right, I mentioned it before for the sake of the Flipper Club rap, but in this case, yes, this now in the universe, it's actually been released. So yeah, Macaron's Ballad is like very slow. I don't even know what beat we're using. It looks like we're using like some Mario World music, and like trying to sing over it. It's like okay. I mean, it's not exactly the best still. It's more so just kind of quiet. Micron's voice is kind of quiet, but it's like okay. It just doesn't have too much. What do I think? It doesn't have too much oomph to it, you know. Like it's not got that catchiness. So we end up doing that. Then the boat between with Nothing and Fiery breaks in half, and Fiery's about to fall into the void, and then Nothing figures out that their super stretchy arm from the injury. Is it an injury or is it a buff? I feel like this bro's arm has more been buffed than it has been injured, but eventually Fire ends up being safe. Flint and Steel is all happy, because oh my god, I came here as fast as you could, and Fire's like, okay, come on. Um, and the physicist is like, bro, what is there to care about over to my kid? And it's like, fair enough. And in the meantime, one is doing that whole shenanigan with complaining about YouTube logo. Nothing is now complaining to one. They have the crash out of the generation. They start crying. They run away. And Macaron just finds it. Macaron finds it in the meanwhile. Because like they're like an outsider. To be fair, Macaron ends up introducing a kind of an interesting situation in the game, because like having a debutante right now is like if you had a debutante in Teapot now. Imagine, right? For example, you have like a debutante in current day Teapot. It's a disaster. Imagine they join whatever's currently going on. Like there's so many layers to why people don't like each other. Oh, because the challenge is the ball and the youth, and I don't like you, but I like you, but you don't like me because of the one challenge and the challenge number 4. Right? And it's like, okay, bro, like what are hold the phone. Right? Because like it's such a mess. So Macaron kind of joining does put in an interesting like additional note on it, because it's like it's a relatively sort of joyous person, because they're just here for the competition. They're here to have fun, and they don't really know what's going on with the other people, but they don't seem very happy to be here, despite the fact that like they seem to be happy to be there. Right? So Macaron's just like, okay, I'm gonna do the challenge because I don't know what the hell is going on. So then the other fellas that come in, one is starting to realize, shit, I'm super mean. We've got up for Elam, since Macaron and Flint was also part of Flint and Steel scene. That means Flint and Steel is safe, so she can get eliminated. Which means we got Fire, Nothing, 10, and YouTube logo. I think Nothing has a justified crash out, Like at the end of the day, they're like, yo, none of you guys care. I'm sending signals, and it's not, and also they look cute with the flowers. So I'm gonna say that Nothing is safe. Fire should be safe because they didn't do anything wrong. Right? Like they didn't do anything wrong. 10 did something wrong. And even though it's just kind of the debate, will they realize, right? Because they do get the post credit scene of one being like, why was I like that? I've never been like this, right? And then the whole ball thing, like, oh, yo, do you miss ball? It's like, no, I don't, no, I don't miss ball. But at the same time, it's like one of those. I think they gotta get eliminated because I don't know who else would get eliminated right now. So I'm saying 10 gets out. Also because of Zero, because Zero kind of is mean for no reason right now. So I will say that because like Zero did nothing to help. They could at least like I don't know use the jetpack, try to boost the ship, go faster. But no, we're not. We don't do any of that shit. We instead just go raw. I was gonna be here and blow a raspberry, and like okay. I mean yeah. And then we have our post-credit scene. I think the arc that we're trying to pull here is that like, oh, Ball was a necessary evil, because basically what I think that is happening here is that everybody fueled their rage towards Ball. right? Ball was the recipient of all the hate. However, Ball was extremely good at taking the hate on the chin, right? They barely responded. They were just like, "Oh, I'm just cool," right? So they took the hate on the chin. They were somebody that could deal with the hate. And then also like was the recipient of all the hate. However, once Ball is gone, that means that the hate that everyone has, just in general, right? Because they're gonna get mad, right? They're gonna rage, ends up now being directed at each other. Right, like they start crashing out to each other rather than Ball. Right, they start complaining about each other to each other. But the problem is that they themselves are not great recipients of hate, and you can tell by how they're literally almost superbly injured. Right, like they're not very good at this. So we end up having one being like, yo, I don't know why I'm so mad. Is because there's nobody to be mad at, which means that you're just being mad at any of your peers, right? You're just getting mad at the next person to make a mistake because you have to be mad at somebody. Even though that's not how that works. I think that's how this show is gonna make it work. So I think that is the arc that we're currently trying to deliver here. One thing I'm also gonna say is that the actual post credits, like the way that we transition into the OST review is great, is excellent. The prize of the treasure chest is a tablet, and then they click play on the video, and it's like a beautiful transition into the video, into the ad for the WAS music. Like that, that's actually excellent. I'm gonna say that is excellent. Okay. Yeah, Macron's ballad, sped. What? I guess that's the track. But we have that episode. Time for the 12th episode, which is I think the exact same length. Actually, no, it's one episode. No, it's 1 second longer than this episode. It is titled. What the fuck is that? What? Mageirocophobe's nightmare. That can't be. Mageirocophobe. Ma- Mageirocophobe's nightmare. Mageirocophobe's nightmare. Okay, let's go. Episode 12 of the series. So, that, by the way, first of all, before I say anything, yo, what the hell is playing over there in the credits? That was fire. I was vibing out. For once, I was jamming out to the credits, bro. What was that? That track was great. Did that play in the show? I thought, I don't remember it. That was hella good. Anyways, we have here a new chapter in our situation here of WAS, where we've got these contestants that have been in such a mess. So Macaron starts being friends with Fire. That makes sense. I mean, Fire is like the only other person who's not permanently miserable, if you think about it, right? So like in general, it does seem like a thing that would happen, and they kind of just like to play. Macaron does have like that childlike playing in them, and Fire is just literally a child, right? So like yeah, that's fair. That's all makes perfect sense. So they're playing off. They're doing some drawings. They're pretty good. Fire's drawing is actually great. It's actually a great drawing. Macaron's drawing is maybe not the best, but I mean it's still alright. They're both pretty decent artists. I'm just gonna say it. Then we got Sphere, who's all sad, so they prank him for being Ball's kid and a drunken alcoholic. The vote count goes way down to 48, but I don't. Is that could you vote multiple times on the debut poll? I guess maybe you could, right? Because you could vote for like 2 people or 3, maybe. But eventually, with 18 votes compared to 11. 10 gets eliminated. Yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense. I was very much so willing to consider other options, but in this case, it's like, you just gotta go. You were the mean one. Like, and in a lot of the time, yeah, it's what, oh, the mean one went, this was eliminated. Yeah, but I mean, like, yeah, yes. What do you want? What are you gonna do about it? Like, the mean one is mean and therefore deserves to go home. Yes, we do that. So, they eventually get eliminated alongside one, and then we have ourselves a challenge, which is Christmas themed. So is to make a Christmas dinner, which means that everybody will be making one dish and serving it to the judges. They will rate it, and we do that. What do we think of this challenge? It's a good challenge. I like these challenges personally. We get to see everybody do their segment. At a time, there's usually not too like you can do inter shenanigans, right? But it's not too big of a deal. with how we end up having other characters do shenanigans, right? So the challenge is pretty good. I like them. I like challenges where things have to be rated. There's a reason why it works. It's like judging panels and stuff. Then we end up having Nothing and Flint and Steel. Let's talk about these two because these two are one of the primary little conflicts that has currently been going on in the show. So throughout the past couple of episodes, you can see Nothing kind of blush at Flint and Steel, and then eventually after the last episode, after the crash out in the last episode, they were like, "Yo, you just don't really care. I don't see you giving any of that love back. Therefore, I'm just gonna stop doing that." But it's at that moment where Flint and Steel is like, "Wait." But I did. I was distracted because my kid nearly died. And I was like, oh, I mean, yeah. So even though Flint and Steel might not be the greatest at expressing emotion, like, she was fine. Yeah, the thing about Flint and Steel, yeah, it's just that she's very distracted, just extremely distracted all the time, right? By like Fire. They have a Fire who's this sort of um also very fragile character. Fire is kind of a fragile thing. If just water hits them, they're kind of already screwed, right? So it just ends up being a little bit of a disaster, right? Where she's like, "Oh no, I have to protect them from everything in the world," right? So then they end up kind of like not focusing too much on what's actually around them because they keep focusing on them and seeing if there's anything within their nearest surrounding that's a danger, right? And Fire, of course, doesn't like that, so that's a debate. But in general, they end up being pretty pretty okay. But like it's in these types of situations where we're in a safe environment, right? Like here, we're just in a kitchen. We're probably not burning anything. I mean, you can never truly know, but we're probably not burning anything. Like we have an oven that burns. The YouTube logo is chicken, but that's not really anybody's fault. That oven just didn't work, right? But it's in this situation where Flint and Steel can actually sort of, I guess, relax or something because they're not like the dangers of the outside world, right? We're in an enclosed space, and then she starts, just conversing like, "Yo, I'm gonna like make my food and I'm gonna talk to who's around me, right?" But it's at this point where Nothing has already given up. So yeah, that ends up being complicated, and we'll have to see how we're gonna write this. Are we gonna write it into? Are we gonna make it like, oh, we now end up having her say it, and then he says no, and then Nothing says no, or Nothing say yes now, and like we're gonna have to see. To be honest, of course, we do have the big old dangers of the fact that they probably will get eliminated at some point, but yeah, YouTube absolutely screws up their dish because they opened the oven, which was illegal. Flint and Steel makes the Brussels sprouts, but yet again, she's kind of just too distracted by what surrounds her, so she can't exactly make them very good. And also the oven is just bad. And then we have Macaron and Fiery, who both want to make fruitcake. However, they end up debating. They end up pulling out, fake playing pretend about whether who gets it or not, right? Which ends up being a mess because none of them have actually made anything. Macaron simply stabs out a chunk of themselves and puts it on the plate, like, "Yo, I guess I'll make a food." And Fire just literally just didn't get time to even imagine anything. So yeah. Sphere's beard is completely gone. This fella's miserable. Poor guy. He did not deserve this. He did not deserve this. And now we have ourselves the dishes. Fire comes in with an air sandwich, which is fair. I just thought Macaron was gonna ask him to grab another piece of the macaron, but yeah, no. They end up all rating it a 0. Then we have the homemade Brussels sprouts from Flint and Steel. It's not very good. It's not very good. She was presumably distracted while making it. The tools weren't great, so we get an 8 out of 40, which isn't great. Macaron ends up serving a macaron, which it's not epic. To be honest, that's it, Macaron. You're getting an execution. Well, that means that. Well, hey, that's the dish then. But like that ends up also having a 0, I think. Mashed potatoes end up being given there by Nothing. Look, sometimes doing food that's just demonstrably decent, like microwave food, like it's not great. It's not winning any awards, right? But if you're banking on everybody else to be miserable, then yeah, just doing the bare minimum at like default thing sometimes work, right? It's kind of like a 5 out of 10 is pretty bad usually if people are trying their best, right? And you know that there's some talented chefs. But a 5 out of 10 is great if they're playing against Fiery and Macaron, right? Who was just spent two kids who were just debating all the time. So even though they get a pretty bad score, it still ends up fine. And then YouTube logos burnt chicken that they absolutely did like. The poor soul, bro. There was nothing went wrong. This guy did nothing wrong. Like this guy did literally nothing wrong. He was just gonna go like, I'm gonna cook the ham that I gotta cook, and then the oven was like, no, the sun is a deadly laser, and it's like, I mean, yeah, like what am I saying? The oven's a deadly laser. Like, there's not too much to say. So everybody else is up for elimination. Flint is sealed, YouTube logo, Macaron, and Fire. Who gets out? I don't fucking know. Do we vote out Flint and Steel? No, I don't think we do. I don't think we vote out Flint and Steel. And YouTube logo did nothing wrong. So I think those two should be safe for pity. So then it's that duet of Fire and Macaron, who both didn't do well in the challenge. They both definitively threw. And Fire was also the one with the second to most votes last time, which already means that they're a threat to elimination. So I think it's time for the Fire to go. I think it's time for Fire to go, unfortunately, even though they have been buddies with Macaron. I think that is time to go. What is our post-credit scene? I don't remember it. Oh yeah, it's just Fear freaking bleeding. This poor guy, he was just chilling. This guy, he was just chilling in the world, didn't give a shit, and now he's being bullied for being bald. Like, it's not his fault to be a ball. People are mad at the Ball Junior because they're a ball. The freaking guy. They're just trying to get a jetpack, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. What is a what is a Mageirocophobe? I haven't learned Mageirocophobe is the fear of cooking. Oh, okay. I mean, that makes. Why is that a thing? I don't. I mean, fair enough. You can be scared of anything. Okay, well, that's a thing that we have learned today. You have just learned what a Mageirocophobe is, and now it is time to learn to chase the spark in episode 13. Let's fucking hit this shit. Okay, so that is the big old episode 13. We are getting there at high speeds. So, in this episode, we get more lore on Ball because we cannot have Ball lore with that. You know, we weren't getting Ball lore for a couple of episodes, so we need Ball lore because Ball is the fan favorite. Not the fan favorite, the creator favorite. So we end up having ourselves the showcase of the elimination area for the first time. So the elimination area is like one gigantic desert plain. There's not much going on over there. It's just desert, and there's a lot of desert, right? So yeah, not much goes on except that Ball continues to be relatively annoying as 10 eventually appears and B's like, yo, I mean, you're like, wait. 10 said the hit quote, I thought after being away for so long you might have changed. However, they give them major flashbacks, like major flashbacks, right? Because remember the whole arc with Ball. We have a pretty big problem with the arc with Ball. However, before we can actually chat about that, we need to chat about the rest of the episode because I'm going in order this time. So Ball eventually just completely spaces themselves out. They go insane. Like they go space themselves out, and then eventually they get woken up by 1. They get woken up by 1. They don't get woken up by 10, which is interesting because that means that between those two events, which presumably wasn't that long, Zero proceeds to just leave. I don't exactly know, but like whatever it is, Zero left sometime around this time, and however the hell Zero left, it was it was very good. Because remember how they were glued together? Where did the glue go? I mean, I'd presume that, if Zero separate, they still have the glue on them. But no, the glue had time to leave. So I guess Zero brought over all the glue. No, where did the glue go? Because, like, if they're glued together, no, the glue should still be there even if they're separated, and it would be proof that they were together. Like, yo, look, I had glue, right? So, like, it ends up being a little bit of a problem. So they end up panicking over Zero because, they're kind of mischievous. But they end up just coming in to look for them. There's a sign that says that this is not from Zero because you should go that way from not Zero, which I must say, I think that is indeed the way that they should go. It could be Zero is kind of mischievous in the way that, like, they could just post that note telling them to go from the wrong direction, right? So it's a double fake out, right? These type of double fake outs, they'd be pretty solid, right? But yeah, they end up going to look for Zero, and they end up doing that. Then our final five, they're kind of having fun and doing shit until we discover that Fire is a robot. Oh my god, this is just like Dibs. This Fire is a robot, and I was like, "What? You're a robot. Did we not tell everyone?" And apparently we did back in episode 1, back when Fire couldn't speak. Okay then, but we end up having 34 votes, which is pretty alright. And then we actually end up having YouTube logo eliminated with 16 of them. Nah, didn't see that coming. Gotta be honest, didn't see it. I thought that we were safe because it's not their fault, but I guess they were the character with the least arc happening. Right, like at least like Macaron and Fire, we're doing the friendship arc. Flint and Steel and Nothing, they were doing the whole love arc, which apparently ended off screen. I think I heard from whatever was going on in the credits. I think, which is it's interesting. So I guess they're not doing that. Okay, then fine. But I mean, the YouTube logo was the only one left without really an arc, because the arc about, like, getting bullied by not 10, yes, by 10, ended, so they didn't have too much going on. So I guess it's fair enough. I don't think they should have gotten out, but oh well. Goodbye. They're also just kind of annoying to listen to if you're on a computer. Now, we randomly have a TV show talk set, okay, for our final immunity challenge of the season. Somehow, final immunity challenge. I don't know, 3 more. Wait, really? Yeah, there's 2. There's 3. There's 2. Wait. 14, 15, 16. Yeah, there's 3 more episodes. Okay, that's weird. But anyways, we end up having our host ask a bunch of questions, which, to be fair, they're pretty decent questions. They're answered to decent degrees of success. But, like, I like Fiery's pushback. Oh, how does it feel to be the most forgettable host of all time? Which, yeah, I mean, last time Flip-A-Clip actually did a thing that was interesting was, like, in episode like in the rap in the musical, right? That was like the last time that did something interesting. To be fair to them, though, this has been the type of show that hasn't needed too much host intervention, right? Like, it's one of those shows where it's like you can have a host that really intersects into the arc, right? However, you don't necessarily need it. It's kind of like, for example, in a Mr. Beast video, right, where, like, you're sitting in the circle and in general there's not too much entertainment going on. You need a host, Mr. Beast, is just putting in more barriers and challenges and barricades, right? To actually start like getting shit to happen, right? Getting story to happen. However, in a show like Survival, the host of Survivor barely does anything. They just come in from time to time and go like, "Yo, let's go to the thing," and then they explain how a challenge works, right? But, like, they just leave the contestants be for the most time, but the contestants themselves are inherently interesting because they're in this interesting environment and they have interesting interaction and all that stuff, right? So it's just inherently interesting between them. So then there doesn't need too much host intervention, and this has been in the latter side. Characters have been loving each other, characters have been hating each other, characters have been being friends and not being friends, being enemies, and being mean and being nice. Like, there hasn't needed too much host intervention in this show, which is why Flip-A-Clip hasn't really had the necessity to be interesting. And then we have ourselves ads. Okay, so some ads are fun. I love the ads with, like, our failed debutantes. Dice's Casino, right? With the time bomb, who, remember, 90% of gamblers quit before they hit it big. Then there's the gasoline gas station, Gas and Go. However, in between these advertisements, we end up having the lore drop of Ball, the flashback from Ball. Which, by the way, what... it's a very weird time to play it because it makes sense. However, it also doesn't, because it's like if that scene is an advertisement. You know, like if that scene is an advertisement, because there's an ad after it and there's an ad before it, which implies that it is an ad within itself, which is like such an interesting thing. But apparently, Ball kept getting fired from jobs, and then Ball's wife, which is another Ball, ends up just going, "Yo, I mean, we got kids. You should look for a job, right?" And then Ball's like, "I have zero motivation to look for another one." So eventually, we end up having all of the situation, but eventually, um, we have her say the line, "After so long, I thought you would have changed, but you don't care." And that's probably when Borg gets rejected. So Borg absolutely starts becoming extremely sad, just like extremely abysmal. And then they proceed to sit there, and that's like the post-credit scene, I think. But before we get that, we have a lot of chops and chaps. Senor Pantalones ends up being the guest, and they have the challenge, which is to not press the button, but to not have your button pressed, basically, right? And then you'd be like, "Yo, can we press the other people's buttons?" And the answer is yes. So then Fiery presses the other buttons, and then he wins. You know, it's a simple challenge, which, like, yeah, that makes perfect sense, I guess. You know, it was kind of difficult because there wasn't really any way to protect the button. Like, if you could, if it was like a portable thing, it's like, oh, you can bring it, like, oh, you have a pocket button, don't press it, but you can press other people's, right? Then it makes sense. Then it becomes kind of like a game of tag. You have to steal the item, right? However, they were just podiums on the ground, so there wasn't too much to discuss. Flint and Steel, Macaron, and Nothing are up for elimination. Who's out? I don't. You know, I haven't had less of an idea before until now. Let's say Flint and Steel. Let's say Flint and Steel. Let's say it's time for Flint and Steel to go, because I don't know who else would really be going here. um, but yeah. By the way, very big fan of how we're doing the credits. The credits being like a chit chatter between characters. That's really enjoyable, right? Because like it makes watching the credits interesting because you get to hear chit chatter, like there's this chit chatter between the host and everything. It actually has interesting things going on in it, whether it's like apparently the love arc ending, right? Like that's our knowledge that we have because of this line, right? And even if it's not important lore dumps, like it's just fun to see the bickering of like, no, you're a terrible host, right? So yeah. But then yeah, apparently they don't find Zero, and Ball has just been sitting there molding at themselves, which is interesting. But like at the end of the day, we end up having 10 be worried. Like, yo, I mean, I understand that, you know, they're annoying and everything, but they're still a person, so I still care about them, which is interesting. But you know, I like it's one of those things where when a normal person's sad, it's obviously bad, right? But sad and miserable, that's obviously bad, and they're being really quiet and closed off, right? However, I feel like it's one of those situations where if Ball is closed off and miserable and just locked down, right? It's like that feels like so much of a big deal because it just doesn't happen, right? Like it's so weird. Like, wait, this guy is doing this. Oh, then some shit is up, right? Like it's so much more of a bigger deal when somebody like him ends up being in that state, because like, wait, you're so far out of that state usually that it's like when you're in it, you're like, oh god, something shit has gone down, right? So we have major problems, and it ends up that yeah, we're gonna have to see it. Presumably, we're gonna get more Ball character development in this in the next few episodes, because Ball is the favorite. Let's go to episode 14 called Fluffer, F.L.U.F.F.E.R. It's like spelled out in letters. Let's go. Everything is spelled out in letters. You know what I mean. You don't, but you'll see the title and then you'll understand. Let's go. Alright, that is episode 14 of WAS F.L.U.F.F.E.R. So this is a little bit of an interesting episode. We have a bit of a fluff episode, I guess, even though it's quite important actually, because we eliminate 2 people in this episode, not just 1. Yeah, because we were wondering how this was going to be the last challenge. Well, apparently it's because the other people, the eliminated contestants, came in. Now this is interesting because it's like at the end of the day, like Flipperclip could not have known this, which means that Flipperclip must have had some semblance of a idea to do something like this before as well, right? Because we had, it was our final challenge. Like, whoa, that's kind of that's big stuff, no? So we end up sorting this stuff out, and we now need to uh do stuff. So Ball is fine. Okay. We end up having Captain Underpants arrive as they're running around, but Ball is fine. Ball is not super sad anymore, which is a little bit of a bro. What's happening? Because like in a way, it's not that I want Ball to be miserable. I just want them to recover by recovering. Like there's a certain degree where it's like you can we keep skipping to post solve the problems, and it's like, okay, we get this, you're interesting me in a situation, in a problem, in an arc, in a dilemma, and then you're just solving it, and then in the next episode it's all good, when it's like, wait, I want to at least see that, like I don't mind, like it's just nothing, and Flint and Steel are literally don't, I think, interact ever since the episode where they bailed out. Like I think ever since Flint and Steel was like, "What if I want to be more than friends?" They literally don't interact within the show itself. I think they maybe have an interaction in the post-credit scene, although that's more the flipper clip. But they literally don't talk to each other that entire time. It's incredible. So, and it's like, wait, I mean, you set this up for 3 episodes only to then not do anything with it. It's disappointing, because it's not just that we get, like, even if they're like, oh, they solved it off screen, like we don't get to see the result of it. What did they solve? What was the result? Like, and the show is starting to sort of not necessarily piss me off, but it's starting to become a little bit annoying, because it's like, come on, you're doing arcs, but you're not completing them. You're going half the way. It's like if it's like you built half of a bridge and then you left it. Like, it's just, what are we doing? Come on. Or like Ball, it's like, here's the words and gets super mad because one said this whole thing and they're gonna be a better person. But it's like, no, now they're back to being mildly annoying. But it's like, how did they who snapped them out of it? When did they snap out of it? What is going on, right? And then it's like, how did they find, like, even within this episode, where was Zero? What was the initial interaction like you can barely even see it. Like, it's weird, right? Because like Ball was in such a state, but now it's fine again. It's like, wait, what? We need to start understanding these things, it's like brother, like, what are we doing out here? But I mean, okay, it's just kind of not, it's just kind of like upsetting, because it's like, it's doing arcs, but it's not forgetting about them, and once it's fine, but now it's like, bro, what are we doing? So Flipper Clip gets stolen away by Dice, who, hey, in casinos we sometimes have those mafia tactics, so that makes sense. So then that means that Gasoline and Dice, which sort of lead the eliminated contestants, like batch, they're the only ones with ads. And Captain Underpants also mentions them as well, right? Like as they were going to the store, so they kind of end up being interesting. Which, I mean, it's kind of a fun duo: person with no votes and person with the nearly the most votes, right? So they end up leading that career. And hosting the elimination, where the eliminated character ends up being none other than Macaron with how many votes? 16? Wait, hold on. Let me check. I don't remember the number. Yeah, 16 votes compared to 13 from Flint to Steel. Yet again, I got it wrong. I haven't gotten anything right. I've gotten like 2 eliminations right. Today's a bad day for that. Today's a bad day for guessing. I don't know. I never got the vibe of this show properly, of the eliminations in this show, which is really unfortunate. But yeah, they all get a batch of gasoline and freaking die from it. I like how fire, like, theoretically the gasoline should make the fire significantly stronger, right? But in this case, no, because it's a robot, right? So yeah. They don't end up being eliminated, and that means that we then have a bunch of other situations. One accepts Zero as not being an integral part of them, because Zero doesn't want to be an integral part of them. They want to fly around and shit. And then all the eliminated contestants get back, because apparently if you just slam Flipper Clip in the head enough, they will just leave. So they end up being the Fluffer, and the Fluffer take away Flipper Clip to their secret base with eldritch beings, apparently, according to Dice. But When has Dice ever said the truth? So everybody else, 7 people decided that Flint and Steel should get out of the remaining contestants. So there we go. Flint and Steel get out. We have a very stalling compilation of every single elimination so far in the show. Okay, I guess. I mean, we probably could have done a mildly sped up version of it rather than this, because here we get to see all of the surrounding context as well. And it's like, did we really need it? So they're going in the base. Ball has a tactic to try to get Flip a Clip back, but in the meantime, we have a vote to win between Fire and Nothing. Fire has to win for all who they've lost, and Nothing, I don't know. I want to win, right? So who's gonna win? Wow. That's a great question. They're both two characters which, like, in theory should be pretty abysmal performance, you know? Like, I've seen multiple episodes characters that are just faces, and they get out super early because it's kind of boring. I've seen characters that are acid flips like Fiery, and they get out early because they're boring, right? But in this show, they managed to survive by just, like, staying under the radar and then having interesting character arcs. In my personal opinion, I prefer Fire, okay? However, I think Nothing wins. I think Nothing wins because they're more charming. However, I personally would enjoy Fire more, and I would vote for Fire. However, I'm gonna have to guess that Nothing wins. However, since I've gotten them all wrong, if Nothing wins, it probably means that Fire wins. However, my honest prediction is that Nothing wins. There's also 50 votes until season 2, which it's always interesting when we're holding a second season hostage at the number of votes. But we then have ourselves the post-credit scene, which is Ball's plan. Like, yo, One, you gotta help me. You gotta have a plan, but I need you to know that you trust me. And it's like, yeah, I mean, yet again, how did you snap out of being totally depressed at what One said? I don't know, but like apparently, like the One didn't come for you then because this is still happening. So how did you snap out? How did you snap out of it? I need to know. This is a big deal. You can't just skip it. Whatever. But they have a plan. So again, I don't know if I was freaking bro, if I was One, I don't know if I would have trusted this enough, because like it's kind of suspicious, right? Like, no, I need you to trust me. And like, no, suggest your plan, and then no, say yes or no. Like, you don't just say I trust you. No, if you're planning to fucking throw me at the Eldritch being so that they get distracted and you run through, then like that's not a plan that we're doing. You know, like it kind of depends, right? But anyways, it's time for episode 15, which is titled "Twas the End of What Was," part 1, and then episode 16 is part 2. 15, let's go! Hello, so I have just watched episode 15 of WAS. So, what do we have here in store for us? So we have a a classic-ish episode. So we have ourselves, the first batch of conversations here as we're getting ready for the final challenge. First of all, wait, what? The final challenge? What do you mean final challenge? Final challenge is episode 13. Why are we doing a final challenge? What? We're not supposed to do that. We did a voting. Like, that was what we were doing. You remember? We did a vote to win. Like, there's no final challenge. Wait, what? But apparently there is a final challenge, which is, how the hell is there a final challenge? I mean, I don't know. Because we specifically stated that there was a final challenge earlier. And we somehow have this final challenge as a final challenge. That doesn't make any sense. But presumably what's going to happen is just the winner of this final challenge is just who won on the poll anyways, and we're doing a narrative way for it to happen, which, yeah, that's fair. That makes more than enough sense. But yeah, we're getting ready, and more Flint and Steel with Fire as like the mother, also a YouTube logo training freaking the blah blah training Nothing to do what they're doing, and then they end up singing "May the Best One Win" again. Yes, I remember "May the Best One Win," the song that we heard a little while ago in the musical. Well, yeah, they are indeed back singing "May the Best One Win" with, again, mildly switched up lyrics. We have another very, how do I say this, a very musicalized setting. We have 3 songs taking place within this 12-minute period. Yet again, all of them are taken from the Backyardigans and then swapped out kind of the lyrics. In some of them, I don't even know if in like Find Me. I don't realistically it's a very interesting idea that no, we didn't even swap them out. But for like some of them, then yeah, we kind of needed to swap out the lyrics, and it ends up more than okay. It ends up more than fine, but it's okay. What if you get the singing? Because of course I was very critical of the singing the every time. The singing here is fine. It's better. It's improved. It's gone from like noticeably not good to like it's all right. I mean, I can listen to it. It's not exactly. It is partially because the balls are significantly worse at singing than these characters, just because of the way that their voices tend to be, right? Like Ball Junior singing is it's just deaf. Well, no, the other fella singing like a character like Fiery or Nothing, which their voices are more deeper in context. Like it all makes sense, right? So uh, yeah, it's pretty solid. The songs themselves, they're fine. I don't exactly have an opinion. I didn't expect that I needed to form an opinion on the Backyardigans soundtrack when heading into today. I'm not gonna lie, that was not one of the things which I was expecting to get into. However, I guess sometimes life arrives at you full of surprise. And in this case, it has indeed hit us with a pretty big surprise. But yeah, Ball's plan ends up just being to go in there, grab Flipper Clip, and run out. And then Pixelated Sigman and Ball Jr. end up also using this plan. And then they decide to team up and go together to pop in to the F.L.U.F.E.R's base and steal Flipper Clip again. Yet again, this is an I mean, this is the type again. This is the type of plotline where it's like it gives off the vibe of a plotline that happens in a show, but I don't currently know what it is. So I mean, I'm just gonna let it. Shout out to Sharkbook for giving the first ever vote, but out of the 694 total votes, of course, these are our final two. The challenge is a combination of every previous challenge, and we start. Let's just talk about this all in one batch. So, it becomes a very interesting bonus detail that Fiery, like as a robot now, still needs to be somehow capable of swimming in lava, right? Because they can't interact with water, both for the fact that they're fire, but also the fact that they're a robot. The problem is that electrical components or robot components can't interact with lava either, right? But fire interacts with lava, and that is something that we already knew. We already knew that this was a thing, all right? Ever since episode like two, yeah, the lava waterfall, the lava wave, right? So like that is where that comes from. So they can swim. There's no logical explanation as to how, but look, it's just really good metal. It's just really good metal. So they end up surviving. We used the tokens. Remember the tokens that got introduced in like 2 episodes, where it's like, yo, the best challenge winner ends it, and they'll only be useful in the merge. Well, I mean, I guess we did kind of literally forget about we definitely forgot about them, but nothing uses that to skip that challenge. And then they eventually end up chasing their way to the moon, where while climbing, Fire knocks off Nothing from the string, and they seem to just be on the road to the moon and going to be having a lead. That's about as far as we get within this episode itself to actually having to in the actual final challenge, which means that we roughly do 1/3 of it, which is very, very, very little. Considering part 2 is the same length of this part, so if it roughly goes in the same system, we should have like we should only really be 60% done by the time that part finishes. It means that we're probably gonna have less Flipper Clip content in the next episode, which I mean, fair enough, especially when you consider that they already found Flipper Club basically. But let's chat about it. So they all go in the base, distracting them with hats to get into the F.L.U.F.E.R's base, because of course the F.L.U.F.E.R's base is being protected by those contestants, right, from the cave, which don't tend to be very good. But they go down to the cellar where they specifically stated that they were going to be, and there's the eldritch beings apparently. But Ball Jr. and Pixelated Sigman somehow, some way, end up going into a jail cell which Ball obviously, to get back at their kid who makes them feel miserable, they end up lost this keeping them in because it's funny. Hey, sometimes a little bit of reverse trolling is fine, and one is also a little bit of a troller, so we take it. We take it. You see, Ball and One are in surprisingly good terms, despite the fact that they hate each other, but they're on surprisingly good terms, anyways. Which again, it sort of gives me that suspicion. It's like, surely there was some sort of scene when like Ball was feeling terrible, where One comes in and is like, "Yo, I know, but like you gotta show yourself out, get yourself together. Don't want you to just be like this, despite the fact I don't like it." Right? Like, but this that type of thing that we don't get to see, and it just feels like these arcs they're incomplete, and it's unfortunate. I need to see like these arcs. But like that's just the main gripe with the show. If the show sets up things and then doesn't do them, even with something like the tokens, for example, you say, yeah, it sets up a thing and then it doesn't do them. It doesn't care enough to actually keep itself have more than one episode's worth of permanence to anything or another, right? Which is annoying because it's like, bro. But yeah, I'm a big fan of the narrative system of like having somebody pop in out of a door, pop out of a door as they're looking for each other. That's always been one of my favorite little gags in cartoons, especially. So I'm absolutely gonna be taking this. This is fun, and then flip a clip with their handcuffs that don't allow them to teleport and whatever. But they eventually manage to find each other. But before they can escape, we apparently activated spooky creatures. Which, spooky. Oh no, who's it gonna be? So, while they're looking over for the spooky creatures, which they may or may not find. To be honest, I just thought that they were gonna bring in that one guy who was like an eyeball, like Steve. What was it called? It was called like Steve or something. He was just like, and the eyeball that eventually talks about it. I thought that was gonna be the spooky creature, and I was like, hello, I'm the guard. What did you need me? Like, I just thought that was gonna be the guy, but no, they do actually have some semblance of a spooky creature. It's some sort of steel ball with weird emoji eyes. You know what? That suffices. That is exactly what I was expecting to see, to be honest. I was expecting to see some, like, Doors level goofy PNG monster character that isn't really scary at all, however, looks mildly uncanny. Therefore, the cast goes absolutely wild over it. Yes, that was exactly what I was expecting. But we end up having no post-credit scene in this episode, which, I mean, it is a part one, I guess, which, I mean, fair enough. And the second part, of course, will be the finale. However, I am still surprised because at the end of the day, well, this is episode 15 and 16, this isn't episode 15A and 15B, even though they're different parts, but they're still numbered differently, so I'd have expected to see a post-credit scene. But nope, no post-credit scene. We just been chilling all day, all night long. And indeed, so yeah, I mean, presumably at this point we're probably gonna start to run out of Backyardigans music. I mean, I'm saying this. Hey, I'm just saying the Backyardigans song that went viral that one time was Castaways. How did we not do Castaways? We gotta do Castaways, okay? I better see a Castaways in the finale, all right? Otherwise, I'm gonna be disappointed. So it's the one Backyardigans song I know, bro. The one Backyardigans song I know. I need like Ball Junior and whoever and Pixelated Stickman in the jail cell to sing Castaways. All right, that's what we need. Okay, so all right, let's head ourselves. I think do we have more chatting to do? No, do we? I don't know. I don't think we have more chatting to do. It's time for WAS S1E16, or Season 1, Episode 16. Towards the End of What Was, Part 2. Great title, by the way. Out of all titles, titles have actually, titles have had a pretty good way of, like, actually being, like, they've had some thought put into them. That's pretty cool. But anyways, WAS Season 1, Episode 16. Twas the End of What Was, Part 2. Let's go. Let's watch it. Let's lock down. Wow, another show. Wow, another segment. Let's go. Alright, so that is episode 16 and the big old finale of WAS. So, we have got ourselves, of course, the beginning of the episode where we start off here with everybody running away from the spooky entities, which don't really actually do anything. They just sort of stand there. They, I guess, teleport, but they don't seem to have an attack or any of that jazz. But, it just so happens that the spooky entities die because Ball Jr. and freaking pixelated stickman eventually managed to bail away, run away after getting firmly they get locked away in the cage. They don't end up singing Castaways, which is rather unfortunate. However, no, I'm joking, that would have been stupid anyways. But yeah, apparently the eyebrow can make various tools, such as a saw, which is pretty nice. And then we end up doing some things. We have to send out a various set of troops to stop them, and we do indeed find ourselves some troops. A time bomb, the weird glass guy that I don't remember, and then fish, which is a pretty bad combo of defenders. I mean, not like there were many competent defenders going on in the back in these debutants. However, like, yeah, it really wasn't great. And now we have ourselves the final challenge. Remember the final challenge that was happening? Yes. So the thing about the final challenge that was happening is, they're doing pretty neck and neck. However, we end up having Fire just sort of be very mean. They're being competitive to an exaggerated degree to where like they're not holding sportsmanship into account, right? Like you gotta hold sportsmanship into account, right? Because otherwise it's just not really gonna be working out, right? So people who like, even though a lot of them are of course rooting for Fire, it's like, yeah, but I mean, it's sort of not going great. But then here we have our defenders who desperately need to try to get the handcuffs off, and they try. We end up having ourselves a little song. I think the only one of the episode, except for like the final one, where we have a tutorial on how the hell you can use pixelated Stickman's eyebrow to make shit, such as a hammer, which apparently for some reason is the tool that we need to destroy the handcuffs, even though it might be the least efficient tool to do that job. Like, really, no, that doesn't sound like a great idea. Why would you do that? Why would you use that? A hammer? Like, that's like the one tool that wouldn't work. I mean, it would if with enough force, but surely like the saw that you made earlier is way better tool to like slice something in half than the hammer, right? So yeah, we end up making a hammer, and it doesn't still work. For some reason, Ball Jr. never actually gets rid of the freaking um glass shard in themselves. I don't. Why does that not come off? Why do they not do that? But yeah, they end up freaking debating, fighting themselves over and over until they both eventually fall off the edge. Then the fellas end up using their saws and shit to successfully dodge the final ones. Those three, and then everybody else comes out because of course we have to fight the fellas. And then Flip-A-Clip just like, I'm tired of this shit. I'm just gonna get rid of the handcuffs and do all the jazz. We have the intro playing. One thing that I will commend this episode on doing, because I thought that it was rather cool, is that I really like when a song winds up, as the scene is happening, and then you can hear the instrumental slowly kick in. They do this for both the Ball Jr. song, which is really fun, and they also do this for the intro. The intro song starts winding itself up during the scene, and then it cuts away to the intro. Of course, the final time that we actually get to see the intro, which, hey, it was a pretty good intro. I didn't mind it at all. I mean, especially compared to the other one, it was a much improved intro. Okay, that's for sure. And then we get to see a couple of things. Pixelated Stickman, Flint Steel, and then we have ourselves looking at the finale even more. We end up having dice from the back, trying to talk from the walkie-talkie where they're hidden, quote unquote, but yeah, nobody's listening to them anymore because they're all, of course, been sent out to fight Flip-A-Clip. Then Flip-A-Clip successfully evades and starts attacking them all, and then Gasoline arrives, what it'll do to us, and then they successfully figure out that Flipperclip's like, I'm gonna get this one. They force all of you debutantes to be a slave to me. To fucking dice. I will get them all back. So they do indeed get that. I also like the gad of the Buddha just doing the laughter and everybody goes, oh, just like how they did oh to the actual statements. Like that's cool. That's fun. But yeah, Flipperclip is gonna get them all, and everybody's gonna be saved, and it's gonna be a great day to dice. Hey, at least we made Dice the owner of the casino, the mean one. Don't gamble, kids. Which is obviously why Dice Bomb should no Dice Bomb. No, that's a different character. That's not a carrot. That could be a carrot. Time Bomb should join, guys. But yeah, we ended up doing that. You see, I don't know. Ball and One, they're kind of buddies. Like, bro, these two. It's like again. Yeah, it's just the unfortunate thing with the show. It's fine. It does arcs that are interesting, okay? Like I don't mind. Like even if a lot of these arcs are mildly cliche, like it's all fine for the show. It doesn't commit to actually showing us an arc from start to finish. It like starts itself an arc, it goes to 70%, and it goes like, oh, don't worry, they sorted it out off screen. No, I want to see it. I don't do it off screen. Do it on screen. Do it on screen, please. Come on, we're freaking. It's annoying. It's like, how did a ball stop being depressed? I need this knowledge. Okay, but all right. We then have the final sprint, and right as we're getting there, Fire gets absolutely demolished by a stick, and Nothing's like, yo, I kind of feel bad for doing that. Should I get out? No. And then they end up winning, and Nothing wins. Nothing has officially won. Was what do I think? I think that as I always say, I always like it when a winner represents the season, and I think a winner usually should represent the season. And I think Nothing does sort of represent the season. It's a character that kind of just like the show starts out as nothing, like even the show itself sort of starts out as nothing, even skipping challenges, right? Having episodes that are 40 seconds long. But then it sort of builds itself up, right? From nothing, from being sort of not relevant, it starts picking itself up, starting to do storylines, starting to do, more character development, growth, all that stuff, singing songs and stuff. And Nothing sort of represents that as well. They start off as the base of literally being nothing. Like, they don't have a design. They're the easiest character to draw. They don't have any lines, and they're just not interesting. But eventually, as time passes, they pick themselves up. They have storylines like the one with Flint and Seal that we don't get to see the end of for some fucking reason, but we don't get to see it. But like, we get to see arcs getting built, and the character progressively gets more interesting, has character development. They get to sing songs, and then we ended off on a high. Like, it's nice. I think it's a solid representative of the season here, which is rather fun here. Nothing. So if I end up winning, and Dice ends up trying to run away before Flipperclip, who gets really mad at them, but Dice eventually looks back and tries to call on their support, but nope, they've all switched back, and therefore Dice gets firmly disintegrated by Flipperclip. Goodbye. Yep, they are firmly been absolutely dismayed, and then we end up having a crab as the prize to Nothing, and Nothing just looks at them like, I don't really like crabs, but okay, this one's mine, which is cute. I think the art style of the show is kind of cute. I don't know, I like it. I like the facial expressions at the character pool. I like looking at them. Okay, they're nice, they're fun, they're cool. And then we have a season 2 voting. Season 2 will indeed be real, because as the credits point out, we have had 51 votes. 51. We get a season 2 of this apparently by 1, which is crazy. So then we have ourselves the WAS season 2, where you can pick the cast. This is a very interesting split. We get to pick 3 people from the first half of elimination, 3 people from the second half of eliminations, and then 6 people from the debutant, from the failed debutantes, and then those 3, and 6 will join out of the overall votes, which is an immensely amount. It's an immense amount of power to give, and it does worry me quite a bit, in a little bit, because like these okay, I don't know. Is this cast gonna be good? Because a lot of the time when you do a new season, of course, you want to show off of some different characters, some different types of characters and jazz. But it is a little bit scary when you have something like this because you might just end up picking the fan favorites again, right? But okay, let me quickly, just because I'm curious, and I've not actually ever had to pick a cast like this before. Who would I pick out of the first batch? I would probably pick balkers are just fun. Okay, balkers are just fun. Pixelated Stickman because they got an interesting debate, and then probably the emoji because they did seem to have some interesting character, especially in that one episode where they were tending to ball and stuff and doing all that jazz. Everybody else is entirely an asset flip from something else, which means that I kind of don't really care about them. I'm gonna be honest. So I think the emoji segment, and the ball. From the second half of the cast, who would I want to join? Ooh, okay, let's think. Presume. Okay, I would want Macaron to join. I think Macaron is interesting character, to be honest. I think that them starting off from the beginning could make for some interesting things. So I would personally want Macaron to join. I would eventually candidate them. I'm not sure if 1 and 0 are combined or they're a different character. In this situation, because of course they've separated from each other in terms of like themselves, like like 1 and 0, they're now different people, and they've accepted that, right? But I don't know who they would pick. I would personally have casted 0 as well because they seem to be able to talk. They seem to be interesting with the way that they fly and are chill, and they give off sort of a different vibe than usual. Right, and we kind of don't need 1 if Ball's there, like how I wanted Ball to be there. So yeah, and then would I pick somebody like Ball Jr.? That is an interesting question. I think but then we just have the same shit again. No, I wouldn't pick Ball Jr. I would pick Ball, but like just have a different cast around him so that they can work off people differently. I would probably would I pick Barrett? No, I think I would pick Flint and Steel. I think I would pick Flint and Steel, or would I? No, 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 no. Okay, I would pick 1. I would pick 1. You know what? I think I would. At the end of the day, I think having 1 and 0 as separate characters would be interesting. So I think I would pick 1, 0, and Macaron. That's who I would pick out of these fellas. Even though Fire would be interesting, but I don't think they'd work great with Macaron in the cast. But out of the new people, yet again, Time Bomb, obviously they're really fun. I would probably pick Steve or like that one eyeball because I think they're pretty solid. I'll pick Gasoline. They kind of look fun. For sort of, I would pick that one Elixir because I think I don't know, they look interesting. And out of this cast, there weren't that many females in there. I would probably pick the Sludge as like a lazy character. I would probably pick that one businessman fella that wanted to spin the wheel because they were pretty solid. And then I would probably pick the as like the fragile character. I'd probably pick the paint bucket that got like stomped on so easily in the fight. I would probably pick those. So that would be my cast. The cast which I'd predict, let's just go quickly. I'm predicting probably Bell, Ball, and Stickman on the first one. I'd probably predict who Fire 10 and nothing from the second batch. Then from the third batch, I'd probably predict the Rock, the Gasoline, the Buddha, the Diamond, the Time Bomb, and probably the Fish Stick. That's what I predict. And like the Blue Fish. That's probably that's what I would guess. Because I don't really know who else. Anyways, that is Was. What do I think of Was? It was a good show. No, I'm joking. What was that? This show is fine. It's pretty cool to watch, and it's a show that's not afraid to be a little cringe at times, to do something that's really corny, to have a song that's just not that good, right? But like it's because of its fearlessness to do these things where like so many other people would be scared of doing it because it's gonna be bad or people are not gonna like it. I think that show stands out a little bit for being sort of fearlessness, embrace the cringe, embrace the creative vision, regardless of whether the creative vision is the best possible thing for the show, right? So I think that is what this show excels at in doing, and I think that this show, should keep up the path. But hey, if you want to keep singing, we can try to improve some singing. I think I think that'd be fun. And hey, I can sing. I'll voice act the character. Nah, I'm joking. Everybody's already got a voice actor. There's no new characters. But yeah. I mean, otherwise I do it. Hit me up. Hit me up. No, I'm joking. But yeah, that's all I can really say about was. It was cool. It was fun. Let's go. Alright, so the next thing that we're going to be taking a look at is a show called Bottom of the Barrel. So I've actually been recommended this show, Bottom of the Barrel, by a couple of different people. Because presumably somebody that works on a different show works on it. I don't really know who made the show, I'm going to be honest, but they did comment on it on one of the videos asking for it, and a couple of other people also asked for it. So, hey, we got to be in a friend group or something. Created by RaDarko Animation, their first show, titled Bottom of the Barrel, released about 5 months ago, and with their second episode, and currently latest episode releasing 4 months ago. So it's been a little bit of a work in progress ever since the second episode. But we're going to be watching these 2 episodes just because, I've gotten, I think, 3 requests for it overall. So yeah, we definitely should get to it. Let's go with BOTB 1, which is titled Breaking and Entering. Let's go. Alright, I just watched BOTB 1. So, interesting little episode for sure. We've got a different sort of style of animation here a little bit. It's sort of a little bit different. I think the reason why is just the general pacing of this episode gives off a little bit of a stutter vibe. It kind of feels like we're sort of saying sentences in this type of way where it's like we should like form a team. Like it's kind of like this situation of like so many characters seem to speak in a way where like they say half a sentence, pause, they say the other half of a sentence, pause, and it's kind of interesting pause, and nearly every character does this, which is kind of interesting. As a vibe to set your show with. I mean, yeah, it's not bad necessarily. It just has a different vibe, It's just different. Like I'm not necessarily against this. It's a little bit of a different. So 6 contestants that we have here today. We have got a coffee mug that I don't really know anything about. This guy, what do we call this guy? Morty. We call them Morty. They're like some friggin' Clash Royale weapon or whatever. Clash of Clans. Then we got a freaking Boulder. We've got a green guy. I don't really know what they are. We got Trevor from GTA, and we got Stop Sign. I found Trevor to be an interesting character. I find it interesting how characters that speak in voice lines, I always think are always an interesting character, and I think more shows should do characters that speak in voice lines. Back when like TV over in BFDI used to speak in only BFDI clips, like I thought that was really interesting, right? Because you need to make them respond in unique ways with it, and I think a character like this, where we're speaking in voice lines that Trevor has in GTA, I think it's interesting. I think it's pretty solid and can make some interesting situations. They form 2 teams, G's and Trevor's Sweetheart, and then we have our challenge, which is to go inside the house. We use a portal gun. That is a gun that just so happens to shoot a portal already in the house. Now, I thought one of the issues with a portal gun is that you need to put a portal in the house, though, right? But I guess I'm thinking of the portal gun, the one from Portal, the game. I don't know what portal they have, but they seem to already manage to make one into the house. That means that they win, and the other team is up for elimination. Again, because of I think they're cool, I keep Trevor, and Stop Sign at least was assertive in kicking out that one greedy fella from their team. So I think Coffee Mug remains as the only character that I don't really see too much in right now. But yeah, pretty good voting icons though, I am going to say. They're pretty solid. And yeah, it's interesting, different vibe for a show for sure. And let's watch episode 2. That's a weird way to spell tomato sauce. Tomato. All right, so that is BOTB 2, which is the second episode, obviously. So like it's interesting to judge on this animation because we very specifically earned the information that this show is made specifically to learn how to animate, right? Which first of all means that I'm going to be nice to it, and second of all, it's honestly perfectly suitable animation to begin with. It's different, like it's not extremely like asset styled in the way that like it's not got the be at the eye limbs or whatever, right? Characters' mouths move in a relatively unique way, right? There's some movements that are pretty unique, like when here we have our elimination, right? We grab them and yeet them away, right? Like we've got a relatively unique way to go about things here. Like it's been very all right. Like this learning has actually given us a relatively unique style that makes for a different looking show than usual, right? Which is pretty interesting. We have our elimination era, and also we have an intro. It's an interesting intro for sure. It's one of those intros that start teasing that stuff might be on the horizon. Look at that door. Look at that blue guy with eyes who looks like they're evil, right? Um, one of these one of these intros that of course immediately pops into intrigue. What is this? What is that guy? They're like blue and purple at the bottom. It's like I don't know. They're like a two segmented ball character. But yeah, we end up having ourselves the elimination where eliminated is none other than Coffee Cup, as I predicted, with 18 votes. Is this fair? I mean, for the reasons that I said, I think it is. Right? Trevor is a cool concept, even though, of course, they're an asset. They're an assetless character, which makes them boring. However, they're interesting back again because of the way that they speak. And then the other fella, stop sign, was the middle of the two, right? Well, then we have a cameo from Clock. Okay, we have a cameo from Clock, which is, of course, the big old clock from the 22nd Object Show, which we watched fully quite a while ago, show created by T.D. Oliver. If I'm not mistaken, we are currently behind on the 22nd Object Show in the sense that there is still an episode that we got to watch for the next time that we keep up, which we have not done for a while, so that's why we're a little bit behind. I need to get to that, but there's requests and Object Semper and all that jazz, and we can get to this and we gotta get to that, and it's just it's a nightmare. But I'll get to. I know it's there. But we have our elimination, 38 total votes, and yeah, eliminated is Coffee Cup. Then we have the second challenge, which is to make a pizza. Best pizza wins. Very simple. We rate them with a panel of judges, which is them as well as a character a Tucky box from AOB. Now, presumably, AOB is Awesome Object Battle, which is another show that I have been recommended to watch by that like setting of people. Although I wasn't 100% sure if it was specifically the one that is collaborating on this show, because there's a lot of shows called Awesome Object Battle, because it's kind of an extremely generic name. So I'm gonna hold out on that for a bit before I truly know if it's that one that the recommender intended, but my guess is that it is. Challenges to make pizza. It's okay. I mean, like, there's not too much to say. Like it's a relatively basic challenge that we do in a bunch of other object shows. Team with the sour grape ends up doing pretty well. However, they accidentally find the diesel instead of the tomato sauce, which ends up making a diesel-y pizza. And then Trevor, in the meantime, is making their own pizza, fully focused. So I was like, all right then, if you want to put this all on yourself, you do it. Or you get to see our pizza. Trevor's pizza is not very interesting, which means that it overall gets a low score of 3 out of 10. Why are there 3 judges if only one of them gets to vote? This is one of the greatest questions that mankind have ever seen. No scientist has ever answered it. However, yeah, we end up getting a 3 out of 10. And then our second pizza is the diesel pizza. Everybody completely dies looking at it. I love the way the clock turns into an hourglass. That's fun. But it's a absolutely abysmal performance from the Diesel pizza, which means that they get a 0 out of 10 and are up for elimination. Mortar, Rock, and Sour Grape. Who should get out? I mean, Mortar and Rock pretty much weren't present in the pizza making process. They're not too they were present, however, in the intro, where they did point out, that they were starting to investigate the world a little bit, which, can start to make some interesting plot elements for the future. So my presumption is that Sour Grape gets eliminated because at the end of the day, it's 100% their fault, right, for mistaking Diesel as tomato sauce, even if there was nothing to be confused by at all, right? Like the Diesel was the name that was written on it. It was with tomato sauce. We just for some reason confused it as tomato sauce, even though it was right there to begin with. So it absolutely should be them going home. But yeah, as usual, I think Trevor's cool. I like the post credit scene with him to say that the Diesel piece is good. It's also to be like, what are you on? Do you want to sniff? So yeah. And that is BOTB. I think that it ends up looking pretty unique in terms of animation than the usual, which I think gives it a little bit of a breath of fresh air. As a vibe of a show, it's sort of not like it's not incredible because the episodes, they're not giving ourselves too much to do in terms of interactions, right? Like so far the challenges have just been one person does a thing and the others are just kind of looking or staring, right? In the first episode, one person has the portal, the other ones can't do anything with it, and one person banging on the door, the others aren't doing anything. And here one person making the pizza, the others aren't doing anything, right? Like so far this show has had a big lack of interactions going on, right? So even though, I mean, it was a fine watch, I don't currently feel attached or connected to any character at all because I've not seen them interact with pretty much any other character, right? Like we've had maybe one interaction scene in the entire per episode, right? It was like the scene at the start of this episode and like the scene at the one scene in BOTB1. But other than that, it was like it was pretty much it. Not too much else has been really going on in terms of characters interacting with other characters. So that needs to happen more if we want to, get a show that we start caring about the characters. But other than that, in terms of animation, it's fine. In terms of audio, it's fine as well. It's got some unique characters and unique ideas. And yeah, I mean, I hope for the best if this show's returning. I mean, of course, it's 4 months old. However, we did have the intro uploaded 2 weeks ago, which implies that this show is still on the mind. And of course, I got recommended it by the creator themselves, which implies that it's on their mind. So yeah, we'll see when BOTB is coming back. We'll take a look at it. But for the meantime, good luck on it and see you. Alright, and that will be all for today's episode of Object Catch-Up. It's pretty late, I've had some stuff to do, and I don't really think that it's worth it looking at the other request that I have to really delay this video by an episode, because I can release it today. That's the simple truth. Like, okay, I could wait till tomorrow and cover other stuff, but I can also just release it today because we're at a point where, we've reached a mega episode length. We've taken a look at some things, and, we can wait to take a look at other things later, right? But yeah, I mean, I'm sort of satisfied with today. We take a look at a show that was really big and I put off for so long, but there's other stuff that I put up for so long that I gotta get to as well, right? And then it's kind of, oof, I don't know, man. These requests have been tough. I'm very sorry if you made a request because I'm probably not getting to it for weeks, and some of them I've still not gotten to them for weeks, and they're gonna have to wait quite a bit longer because there's just so much stuff. I literally physically do not have the time, which is annoying. But look, we will get to it at a certain point. They are high on the priorities. It's just that there are a lot of high priorities right now. So yeah, big apologies if you made a request. I promise I know. I promise I'm looking, and I promise, all right, pinky promise, I will get to it at some point. I'm not giving up. I will find it. It will take a bit, okay? Please take the time to trust. All right. Thank you for watching for WAS and also for Bottom of the Barrel. We're all caught up. See you next time.